Hello and welcome to this new video in our data science series where we are going to talk about classification and regression problems. We'll also look at a few examples and the most common algorithms that are used for solving the classification and regression problems in data science. But before we do that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all our future videos. Classification and regression are two types of supervised learning techniques in data science. Supervised learning means that we have a dataset with labeled examples, and the goal is to learn a function that can predict the labels of new examples. To understand more about supervised versus unsupervised methods, hit the link in the top right corner of the video. Classification is a supervised learning method that is used to predict a discrete outcome. In other words, it is used to predict a categorical label. For example, we can use classification to predict whether an email is spam or not spam. There are two main types of classifications, binary and multi-class. Binary classification is used to predict two outcomes such as spam or not spam. On the other hand, multi-class classification is used to predict more than two outcomes, such as predicting the type of iris flower based on sepal and petal measurements. Let's look at some of the examples of classification problems. Here are a few examples where classification is used. Spam detection is where we are trying to predict whether an email is a spam or not. Fraud detection deals with transactions and we are trying to predict whether a transaction is fraud or not. The third one is sentiment analysis, where we are trying to predict the customer sentiment through a product review so that we can identify whether that review is a positive or negative review. Let's look at a few common algorithms that are used while dealing with classification problems in data science. Logistic regression is a linear model that is often used for binary classification, that is predicting one of the two classes. It works by finding a hyperplane in the feature space that maximally separates the two classes. K-nearest neighbor, or KNN, is a non-parametric method that stores all available cases and classifies new cases based on a similarity measure. It classifies a new case by a majority vote of its neighbors, where the case is being assigned to the class that is most common among its k-nearest neighbors. Support vector machines is another linear model that tries to find the hyperplane in feature space that maximally separates the two classes. It can also be used for nonlinear classification. Decision trees is a tree-based model that makes decisions based on the feature values of an example. Each internal node in the tree represents a feature, and each leaf node represents a class label. The tree is constructed by recursively partitioning the feature space into regions based on feature values. To understand more about decision trees, hit the link in the top right corner. Now let's look at regression methods. The regression is a supervised learning method that is used to predict a continuous outcome. In other words, it is used to predict a numerical value. For example, we can use regression to predict the price of a house based on its size and location. Another example could be predicting the amount of rainfall in a certain area based on temperature and humidity. There are several types of regression, including linear regression, polynomial regression, and multilinear regression. Let's look at certain examples that fall into regression problems. Here are a few examples where we are trying to predict a numerical outcome, so they fall under regression. Traffic volume prediction is where we are trying to predict the traffic volume at a specific time given the data of traffic volume at different times of the day. House price prediction is where we are trying to predict the price of a house given the characteristics. Similarly, stock price prediction is where we are predicting the price of a stock given the historical data on a stock. Now let's look at some of the popular algorithms that are used for solving regression problems. Linear regression is used to predict a numerical value based on a linear relationship between the input and output variables. Polynomial regression is used to predict a numerical value based on a polynomial relationship between the input and output variables. That means the relationship between the data points is not fitting on a straight line. K-nearest neighbor can also be used for regression by predicting the value of a new example based on the mean of k-nearest neighbors. Decision trees can also be used for regression by constructing a tree in the same way as for classification. But instead of predicting a class label, it predicts a continuous value for each leaf node. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you understand the difference between classification and regression in data science, and also help you understand which algorithms are most commonly used to solve both the problems. If you're interested in learning more about data science and how it's being used in real world, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell.